and welcome to Amethyst Star Crafting. My name is Jane Allmark and I'm a UK independent Stampin' Up demonstrator. And today we're going to make a pretty card using a few different things. So we are using the Beauty Abounds stamp set. This lovely phrase, our friendship is one big thing. Our friendship isn't one big thing, it's a million little things. We're going to use some of the other stamps and we're going to use the little butterflies. We're using the coordinating butterfly beauty thinlits, which are, I showed you them the other day, but they are just, there are so many dies in this. There are 20 dies with little sprigs, butterflies. These cut out the other butterflies in there, big butterflies, little ones for corners, and yeah, it's just amazing. And it does coordinate with the Beauty Abounds, so it will cut this little butterfly and that little butterfly out. So I have done a bit of prep work beforehand, but we need those, and we also then need the stitched nested labels dies, which cut out these lovely shapes. These are some templates I've got, which was something else that I showed you a little while ago. So we're using that, and we are using the Scalloped Lace Trim. Oh, I absolutely love this. It's the most beautiful, beautiful little lace trim. And I thought that we would make a card that was really sort of pretty and vintage and whatever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with, I have die cut out this, the labels, the stitched labels die. And stamped in crumb cake, our friendship isn't one big thing, it's a million little things. And I have put some double-sided tape on the side just to save a bit of time. And the reason we're doing that is we are going to put the really pretty little lace trim round the side to give a really pretty little border. So, as you know, I'm not the greatest with this double-sided tape, but if it comes over the edge, you just sort of flip it back over so we can put that in. But as I say, just sort of take your corners out. And I've literally just put it round the edges along here, just to give this something to hold on to, which is what we want. But as I say, I do struggle with getting this stuff off. Sometimes it comes off, sometimes it doesn't, and when it doesn't, it's a little bit of a pain. Right, so stick that little bit down, and then this last little one. The pokey tool does help. Right, okay, so we've now got that on there, and what we're going to do is we are going to take the ribbon. Now I'm not taking it off the spool and cutting it down because I don't know how much I'm going to need, but start off in a bottom corner, and what you're going to do is you want to line it so it comes up, and that's why the double-sided tape is quite good. There's a seam along the bottom, so you can just line it to stick along on there. And then once it's sort of held on a bit, when you get to the corner, just do like a little pleat and then put it along like that. When you get to the top, do another little pleat. So just give it a little pleat over the top and then put it down. When you take it to the next corner, I might not have got quite enough glue on there, but we can just tack it down when we get there. Next corner, literally just give a little pleat, and that will take it round the corner for you. Get down on there, and having you can use, I think double-sided tape is probably the best. You can use wet glue. Snail I don't think is going to be strong enough to hold it. But you can see that if you just literally just do a little pleat when you get to the top, so just literally bend it and give it just a little bit of a pleat in like that, and then take it down to this piece. And because this is then on the corner, it says me it's a bit sticky, you can do the last bit with just a little bit of a pleat on there, which then doesn't show out, and then we can cut it off. So if you cut it off at just so that it goes over a tad, and then you can tuck this piece in so that it comes in underneath and forms part of that whoops, that one hasn't gone very well. Put it in. It's always difficult doing it live because your fingers sort of stick a bit, but you can see it will work quite well. We need that little pleat on there, and we're going to tuck that in. Let's make sure my fingers aren't sticking on it. You can see where it's just going on there, and that was the little pleat on that one. So as I say, it's a little bit fiddly, but not overly. And as I say, you can just tuck those pieces down onto that piece of tape. I could have taken the tape right up to the top. I didn't take it up very high, but that doesn't matter. Then what I've done is I have cut out the neck size up in that the stitched nested labels, and we are going to put this piece in on top. Now we can do that with some wet glue round there, and as I say, you can see those little bits are still sticking up a little bit. That doesn't matter hugely, because when we start putting the wet glue down and we sandwich one piece against the other, it will go down a lot better. So I'm just putting some wet glue in the middle here, and I'm going to tuck some wet glue on those little pieces I missed. That was entirely my fault because I didn't take the tape right the way down to the side, but as I say, that doesn't matter too much. And then we are going to, you might have to excuse my head getting in here because I want to try and get this as straight as I can in here. So we're going to take it so that it goes in on there like that, which I think's about right. And then these little pieces that we haven't quite got in here, we can just tuck them in underneath and hold them down with the glue. And the piece at the bottom's done it on its own, which is fine. So I'm just going to hold that for a second, and then when I pick it up. And then what's happened is that you've got a lovely, there's a little piece that's just come out on there on that little seam. So again, you can, with the pokey tool, you can just tuck it in underneath so it sticks in on there. And because lace is quite fine, it's fairly easy to sort of manipulate it round a little bit. So, you know, even if you're somebody as cack-handed as me, but it makes the most beautiful little laced embellishment, which, as I say, I think is absolutely lovely. And you don't need to use too much. So that is going to be our centerpiece. Now, let's take some of the other pieces that I've done. So I have cut out, there's me just throwing all the little pieces I've cut out. Let's just pop them back in on here. Always helps when you've got them on different pieces. So we have a piece of, let's just put these out. What I've done is I've die cut a few little pieces because I don't know what I'm going to use to start off with. So let me just, I'm going to put these pieces just down out of camera here. So what I've done is, as I say, waste not, want not. I've cut the stitched piece out of here, and I'm going to put this piece is going to go on top like this. Okay, this is then going to go in on the center like that, because that gives that lovely centerpiece. But what I want to do is to just decorate it up a little bit. So we're going to take the Beauty Abounds, which I absolutely love, and we're going to use this really pretty little swirl, which almost goes with, we've got these little sort of swirly pieces that I've die cut out that will go, I think, sort of perfectly with it. So let's, I've balanced all these tiny pieces on some blocks, so I need to make sure that I've got my block about. So what have I done with the bigger block? Let's use this one, this will work. So I've just got a long thin block, but it doesn't matter, all our blocks work pretty well. And because I've balanced the other bit on this one, I just want to have it sort of there. So we're going to take the crumb cake again, which is balanced under my other little pieces. And we're going to just stamp this. So what I want with this is, because you're not going to see a huge amount of it, so I want to have, I'm going to take it down this side like this. My ink pad's a little bit juicy, but that doesn't matter. And then I want to turn it round, so I've got it running this way up on this bit. Oh, that didn't come out very well. It's all right, we'll stick a butterfly on there. As I say, my ink's a little bit juicy. So on this one, we're going to do it the other way down. So we're going to do the whole piece on here, like that. And then we're going to have the little piece running up this way. So you've got them in different angles, going up and down. That'll work. Okay, so that's just given us a little bit of background texture. Well, I don't want too much because I am going to put some butterflies and things like that in here. So let me just clean that stamp pad up quickly. I always like to try and clean them. Sometimes I don't till after I've done it, but it's a habit I've got. I like cleaning things as I go. So it's it really is, as you know, all my videos are live crafting so that you get to see exactly how you craft something, warts and all. Okay, so let's just have a look at this and see if that will work as it is, or whether we want to put something else on there. So if that goes in on there, I've got that bit that didn't quite go on there, but that will work beautifully on there. Now, I still want to have just a little bit of something at the bottom. So I'm going to take these really pretty little speckles. I use these speckles quite a bit actually, because they just add a bit of texture to a card without it being too much. So I want something down here and at the top and the bottom, and then probably just sort of over on the side maybe. We'll just see. Now I'm going to stamp off on this because it is fairly juicy, and then we'll have it this way round, like that. And like that. You can do it full strength. It's just I've just re-inked this ink pad and it is quite juicy. So see, I can almost get 3 running down that side. So all I'm doing is just adding a little bit of texture to run through on here. So just running it along the side. I might need another little one on here. And as I say, it can go over the top and bottom, but that I think looks quite pretty. So I had that one that way up. So that's our crumb cake. So let's put that on there, put this one away and clean it off first of all. As I say, the Simply Chamois is absolutely perfect. I do use it all the time for cleaning absolutely all of the stamps. It's so good because it takes up very little room. If you're limited in space, which I am, it's very good because, as I say, it doesn't take up too much space, and that's what you don't really want. So let's take some of these little pieces out of the way for a minute. I'm going to use the pokey tool in a minute. We've done the ribbon, so we don't want any more of this. Absolutely lovely. To keep remembering the name for it, let's find it. Scalloped Lace Trim, and the great thing is you get 10 yards, which is huge. You know, a lot of people turn around and say, you know, oh, I tend to sort of, you know, buy my ribbon from the local craft store, etc. And then they're always sort of turning around and saying, oh, the ribbon runs out really quickly. That's because there's normally only 1, 2 or 3 yards on the ribbon, whereas our ribbon is 10 yards, so it'll last for ages and ages and ages. Okay, so I'm just going to put that down on there, and then we're going to have this piece in the center because that will look absolutely beautiful. Yes. Okay, so let me find myself a card base. card base, literally just cut a piece of your cardstock in half, score it in half and just fold it, and then you've got your card base beautifully. You can use your bone folder. I'm just going to use this like that. So that's the card base going down on there. So we can actually stick this down because I think that that's we're just going to put the embellishments and things on there. So we can put this one down definitely. So let's just get some wet glue on this. Bring that down on here. As you know, I always have this thing of waste not, want not. So wherever I can, I always try and cut things out of my bases. I don't always, it depends how much of a rush I'm in. But when I'm doing a project like this, where I know that I need to cut something out of it, I do try and cut some pieces out. Okay, so this is going to go in on top of this. So let's just get some wet glue in here. Let's bob down there. And then we can pop this one in on here like that. So we've got that little one that didn't stamp out particularly well. That should be like 1/4 of an inch between here. So there we go on there. All right, so I can actually put that on there because I don't need those bits now. So this piece is going to go in on the center, which is our lovely little panel with the lace, which I think is very pretty. And then we have, which I thought was rather nice, these I told you were the swirls from that other set. So I think we're going to put a swirl at the top and a swirl down at the bottom, because you can have them coming up and going down, and that will just work beautifully, I think, on there. So yes, that's going to work beautifully. So I'm going to put this down. You can put these up with dimensionals if you want. Because there's quite a few layers in this, I don't want to put too much up, because if I'm posting it, I try and keep the post down as much as I can. The more layers you have, the more dimensionals you put on, the more the post office charges you. So we're going to put this one in. Let's take that out of the way. In on the center there, like that. And as I say, you've got this lovely, really pretty little lace border around, which just adds that little bit of something to it. Then we're going to put these ones on, because I want one of those at the top and one at the bottom. So as I say, this card is all about texture and prettiness in using the lace. And I think sometimes by doing it with a very neutral colour like the crumb cake. Crumb cake is probably one of the most popular and versatile ink pads, because it goes with just about everything. It's a nice warm colour, but it, now where did I want that? I wanted that one that way with that swirl coming down there. But it makes such a pretty card when it's teamed up with other things. So just putting this down in on the top, so it just goes over those pieces on there. And then we're going to take the other one, so I cut out a few. Again, any little tiny scraps I've got left, I always try and cut die cuts out of. I keep a lot of my dies and things that I've cut out in little envelopes, or sometimes big envelopes, depending what I'm doing. And then I put those envelopes in either with the stamp set that I know that I'm going to use with it all the time, or if it's designer series paper, I will put it in the designer series paper. So if I'm cutting out, for example, I was cutting out some butterflies the other day, and they were with the Sia Silhouette stamp set, the blue one. You probably saw it in the video that I was doing. Well, those pieces that were over, I put them in an envelope, and then put that envelope inside on with the designer series paper, because I think that that worked perfectly. Now these are going to go over the top a bit, but I don't think it matters because it just gives that extra bit of texture. So you've got sort of little swirls coming out, a few little leaves and flowers and things sort of poking through, and this sort of going in over the top. But I think that that works. And then I have taken again from this set and I've done a few little bits because I don't know what I'm going to use. As you can see, I cut different things out, have them on one side, and then use what I want, because I can always use other ones in other cards. Now I've taken this, which is from the Beauty Abounds, which I was telling you about. So I've stamped this one and this one out in the crumb cake and then just coloured it with, excuse me, 2 blends. Now I took, because I like them together, it is the dark balmy blue and the light mint macaron. Now those two together just work beautifully to give a different coloured toned butterfly. And I thought that I would put, I'm just going to lay these out to see where I want them. So I'm going to have one down sort of at the bottom here, probably at that angle. And then I've got this lovely little one sort of hovering, which I really like, again in the same colour. And because I've just toned it with something that's quite pale, it's going to give just a little bit of colour, but not throw it too much. Now I've got some of these ones, which are the die cuts, and again I'm just going to tuck them and put them about. So I'm laying them at the moment because then that gives me an idea of where I am going to put them. So we have 1, 2, 3 in on there. Do I want another one sort of tucked in on that side? Possibly. Yes, I do. And then we're going to take this other one here and we're going to tuck that in sort of on the top there. So again, sort of in and tucked away. And then I've got some of these tiny weeny little butterflies. So let's start putting some of these together. I'm going to put, says me saying I'm not going to use dimensionals. I am going to use the, on these ones, so the ones that are solid, I'm going to use some dimensionals on there. So we don't need, I think we can make do with just a couple on here, because then those little, the wings will stick out a bit. So we'll have one up on here on the top. Oops. Sometimes they come off, sometimes they don't. As I say, my fingers, I do struggle sometimes with my funny fingers. So this is going to be, I love the little butterfly so that it just sort of goes as if it's floating on there. And again, that looks good with that little bit of dimension on there. So it gives a different layer. So we're going to take this one in on here. And we were going to put this one down on this side, so that that's going at that sort of angle. And I want it sort of slightly over the top of the swirl and everything, so that it sort of, it all ties in together, which is rather nice. And then we'll take this one and put this one up in the other corner. When you're building things, just sort of play around with it. Don't put it down and commit yourself until you've worked out exactly where you want to put things, because then it becomes a little easier. So we're going to again take it in onto this one, so that just the little top of that swirl is showing through. And then those two are literally just going to tuck in on the side. So you've got a lot of different textures and shapes of the butterfly, but they all sort of tie in together because they are all from the same set with the dies. And that's the lovely thing, you know that you really can't go wrong. Whatever you take out, is going to work. So I'm just putting a little bit of wet glue on there, and we wanted one that was going to just tuck in on that side. Again, I'm taking it at an angle because I quite like things just at a little bit of an angle. And then this one, which is another one, is going to go down the other side. So you can take as many or as little as you want. We've still got one little other element to put in to finish off, but I really love using these tiny little dies and things. So we're going to put this one in on this side and just tuck that one in on there. Do you want it higher or lower? I think probably just a little lower, tucked in onto that bit will work. In on there, so it's not too uniform. Didn't want it too uniform in there. And then I've taken some of these tiny weeny little butterflies, again from the same die set, because I absolutely love those, and we are going to literally just dot them about. So where's the cap for this one gone? It'll be about somewhere, never mind. I've obviously tucked it away carefully, so let's take the sticky bit off of this side, turn it down. As I always say, it sort of pokes out quite a bit, this sort of putty stuff, so I tend to just round it round with my finger so it gives me a nice little point. And then we are going to put these butterflies in to just add a little extra bit of something. So I'm just going to blob some bits of glue about and just take it down from there. How many have I got? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That will work. So let's have one in on here. Oops. And take it down a bit so it's not too uniform. 2. I'll have one out on here. 3. I'll have one down on here. 4. Well, I'm going to do 3 to start off with and see. I find that if you commit yourself too much, then you can end up with things where you don't really want them. But this take your pick tool is very good, because this little putty thing, particularly if you've got little cack-handed fingers like I've got, it really works quite well to just be able to tuck them in. And you want them in different directions. You don't want them to look uniform. You know, the idea is to just have it so that it looks quite free-flowing, but there's lots of interest for your eye, which I really like. Okay, so that's 3. I do want another one down on here. I'm just going to tuck this one probably in, let's tuck it about there. A little blob of glue there. Let's take this one up. But you can see the take your pick tool is absolutely brilliant. I do love it. I do use it all the time. Now we've got one left. Do I use it? Do I leave it? I don't know. Should we have one to just take the eye away into the corner like this? No, that's too uniform. Do I want to put one in sort of in there maybe to tuck it in? Yeah, that'd work. That'd work. So I don't want to put too much in there, because sometimes you just get to the point and you go, whoa, I've just overdone it, and then you've completely spoilt it. But I think this one will actually take it quite nicely. So let's just put that one in, pop my little bit of lace down, and you've then got, as I say, a beautiful, very sort of vintage looking card, which I think is lovely. The little bits that are left over, as I say, I'm just going to pop them into a little envelope, and then we'll put that inside the case. So I've got some pieces to work on for next time. But I think you could put a little bit of Wink of Stella or something like that on. But if I bring that up, you can actually see that beautiful lace around there, which is given a border. Now, if you wanted to go completely overboard, you could put lace all the way around the side, but I think to just have it as a focal point in the top, you could pop a bit of Wink of Stella on if you wanted to, but I think it makes a very pretty card and a lovely way of using this absolutely gorgeous I have to always read it through, my mind goes. Scalloped Lace Trim. So I absolutely recommend this. It's the most beautiful lace, and it's in the current catalogue at the moment. I will put links and things down for the products that we've used, so you can buy them across on my shop. But thank you so much for watching me. Do look forward to seeing you again. Bye bye.